of you, but I get questions and I get designers hitting me up by DM on Instagram, by email, by text message. Everybody has my phone number. You can have it too. It's on my business card. It's actually my personal phone number. So, how do I get press? How do I get landed in a magazine? I want to be in Art Digest. I want like the craziest stuff. And I always say, do you know Amy Flurry? And so, Amy really is amazing. Here's a little bit of her background, and I'm really excited for her to be presenting such enriching educational content. She is flying in from Atlanta, Georgia, and very excited to have her. So Amy Flurry has 2 decades of editorial experience as a contributor to some of the biggest magazines on the newsstand and in print. Inspired by her career in publishing, Amy authored Recipe for Press. That's what's in your bag. I read reviews. Picture Story and Creative Buzz. Then took to the road sharing her editorial insights with creative entrepreneurs. Recipe for Press Designer Edition, sorry, that's what's in your book, it's the second iteration, is her newest book, and it's actually dedicated to interior designers. That's why we really wanted to cater this event just to interior designers tonight, because it's really catered to the way that you run your business. Recipe for Press is her newest book with the tools interior designers, architects, landscape planners, and product designers need to take advantage of the new media opportunities available to creative professionals. And by the way, when I said interior designers, I meant all of the other things that I said too. It's all encompassing. But beyond publishing, Amy works with trade-only brands in marketing direction, brand development, and in building their relationships with interior designers. Amy lives in Athens, Georgia. I said Atlanta. Oh my gosh, I'm the worst person ever. This is what happens when you travel too much like me. Yeah, she flew out of Atlanta, so I'm halfway right. She also co-founded Paper Cut Project, a company that conceives highly crafted installations in paper for fashion houses, including Kate Spade, Valentino, Christie's, and also the Victoria and Albert Museum. So, now I get to introduce Amy, but before we do that, can you all give her a big round of applause and a thank you for give us, oh, Laura's doing it for us. Look at that, magicians. Give us a second to get this set up. You good? Oh, what's this? Let me go back for a second. That's important.
That's important, as is, I think, to everybody involved in this event, which is no small feat to pull all of you together and to have such a beautiful production, but Tabarca Studio, and then Tabarca Studio LA, or Los Angeles, I think is. These are 2 different Instagram accounts, but they would like for you to follow both, because we're trying to place this beautiful place right here where it is, in the designer hub of LA. And I will mention also the creative culture of PR. Culture Creative, sorry, I knew I was going to do it. Who was also a part of this, and who you will see that what I am suggesting here is getting you to a point where you might need for a PR firm. Okay, so there's a lot that you can do to get yourself in that place. And here we go. And thank you for having me. And thank you, Ivy and Risa, for all of the work. You guys have no idea, but I'm very grateful. And I will say this. Anytime anybody is gathered together like this, I guess I'm almost sounding like a Southern Baptist or something. Really weird. It just warms my heart that you're here to hear what I have to say. So just know that I do care about that. I care about what I have to tell you. I've prepared for you, and I hope there's a takeaway, but I'm even more excited that there's a book in your bag, because in 1 hour, 45 minutes, you can only take so much. But the book was actually sponsored by Zoe Bios Creative, who is an art, I always say an art house, kind of here in LA, that bridges art and the design world by curated collections. Of course, you're going to see the relationship as I get into my talk. Okay, so my first book Recipe for Press obviously didn't have much support on the design front, but I was coming off of 20 years in editorial telling stories of people like you, and you, and you, and you. It was my job as an editor, as a freelance writer, to really seek out stories and to deliver them back to New York, because they were very much interested in stories and people outside of New York, but they didn't necessarily have the arms to have that reach. So I, at my core, can hear the essence of somebody's story, and at my professional peak, I could tell that story about 15 different ways. Okay, so that's what we're going to kind of talk about a little bit tonight. So as I transitioned out of editorial, I had so many coffees on this same subject that a lot of people ask you about. Like, okay, it's one thing when I come to you and I say, I want to hear your story, it's so fabulous, and then I want to share it in 5 different ways with 5 different national magazines. And then when I move on over here, I would often see this story saying, hold up, that was amazing for business. I would like that to happen again, but I don't know the steps. I don't know how to find another Amy, you know? And I don't know how to approach Amy again. So I wrote this book for that, because I could not have enough copies. I could not share this story enough. It just kept coming up and coming up. And this was 2011, and at that time, having been on the other side of the table as an editor, what I was seeing, working with the top global PR firms in the world to the best boutique PR firms in the world, I was seeing that even if you are able to hire a PR firm, you are going to need to control the message first in-house, because once you open your doors, you have lost control. For everybody who can walk around and share your story with a hashtag or with their picture on the iPhone, the first place that you need to be really sharing the story and sharing it correctly and giving people the right words to share your story and the right images to share your brand and your firm needs to come first from within. So I just started seeing, like, I think that's the future. I think we're going to need to know what do editors need. Because it was not my job to tell you, or you, what I needed. I didn't have that kind of time. But as a freelancer, I could see that so many people were putting so much effort into trying to get my attention to tell their story, and they had good products, but they were sending all the wrong messages. They had good stories, good projects, and sending the signals that you are not ready for press. But their work was better than a lot of the ones who knew how to get press and knew what I needed. So that's really important to hear. So that's what I wanted to share in book 1 on behalf of all editors everywhere. Here's what we need, here's what we don't waste your money. There's a lot you can do, on your own to get my attention. You do not have to have a publicist to get my attention. Period. And if you can be so in doing such good business where you need a publicist, you need to know what it looks like to support them, because as you'll read in chapter 1 of my book, which is how important I feel this is that when you get to that point, when you can hire a publicist, do not think you're going to pass the torch and they'll take it from there. They are going to put you to work. And they're going to spend about 3 months of your time preparing you if you're not ready. So we're going to talk about what it looks like to get ready, what it looks like to be your own publicist in the meantime. And I just noticed as I toured the country with book 1, because I printed 10,000 copies, which clearly I didn't have a mentor for that decision. The largest audience were interior designers. And I just kept taking note of that. And then companies from within the industry started wanting my attention. Because guess what? They have to think about this too now. No longer can they make pretty furniture and have an ugly catalog and an ugly website and show up thinking that you are going to be impressed by that. Or you're going to know how hard it is to hand stitch detailing on leather. that you're just going to somehow by, osmosis or something, understand the story of those artisans behind the people who make custom furniture. You're going to have to tell that story, and you as designers are going to have to tell that story to your clients. So that's why I wrote Recipe for Press Interior Design Edition, because there's so much opportunity for interior designers to get publicity, to share your work, to position yourself as an expert, to carve out a niche. But here's what I want you to hear more than anything, and I'll move faster through my slides, but I just have to preface this talk with this key fact. How many of you in here are interior designers? Awesome. Okay, well, hear this. Not one manufacturer, big or small, is going to do well without your money and the continued revenue that you bring to them through your clients. You are very valued in this equation, and they need you, and they need your attention, and they want to share their story so that they can get your business. And that's nothing ugly about that, but they're competing with a lot of other people to get your business. So know that there's so much opportunity within these companies to collaborate. They also have to put out newsletters. They also have blogs. They also have Instagram. There is a lot of opportunity for collaboration when you really lock in with a great vendor, with a place like Tabarca that has beautiful, beautiful products. There's a lot of opportunity for sharing content, and there's so much opportunity with what press looks like today as opposed to what press looks like when I was an editor. Because when I was an editor, I could shut somebody's website down by a mention in Lucky Magazine or on Daily Candy or Refinery 29. Now there's so much opportunity for exposure. It's a more saturated, so not any one thing is going to really move the needle. You need a constant presence out there in all of these areas. So that's what we'll talk about today, and how to get your name, your firm, yourself in those pages. And this is where I would differ from, say, anyone else telling you how to do it. You want to know the quickest way onto those pages? You pretend like you're the editor of those pages and ask yourself, with these images I'm pitching, would I put me in those pages? If I were the one producing these pages or this blog, would I put what I'm submitting on there? And that's it. That's where I'm coming from as somebody who produced those pages for so long, and as somebody who does this on behalf of a lot of manufacturers in the industry. Now, this is how, and from book one, a picture, this is how an editor thinks. When I hear your story, I don't hear, or let me ask you a question. Do I want to hear your whole story? No. No is the right answer. However, if I did, I would hear all of these things. I would be thinking of all of these different angles. But one key takeaway from tonight is this.
Some water.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. It's thoughtful. One key takeaway is this. The part of your story that I want to hear has to relate directly to the pages I write. So if you pitch me or anybody, any editor or influencer blogger, and you have not read those pages, they'll know it within about 2 seconds of opening that email. So that's so key. You're almost halfway there by just reading, and you'd be surprised, because I know it wouldn't be you all that would do that, but just how many people just kind of do this scattershot approach and just hope something sticks. The key to getting press is really in the homework leading up to pitching. The pitch can be more simple. There is a template of how to pitch, what it looks like, and a follow-up in the book. By the time you get to pitching, you should already know with almost 75% certainty that your story belongs in those pages. If not tomorrow or not with that page, then sometime in the future. And this is how, like when you have a project, sometimes I will hear interior designers say, I've got this amazing project and I definitely want it in Architectural Digest, the whole thing. And I don't know one magazine really, do you all, that runs a whole project? I mean, there might be one out there, but really, they don't run a whole project. Maybe Art Digest does, but they run only, how many a year. So the better way, the more efficient and economical way to look at your projects or your stories or your ideas is to think, how many ideas within this one house project can I place that are different one from the next? That's thinking like an editor, and that's thinking like a good publicist. Are y'all with me? Okay. And this is the effect of press. Press breeds more press. And why is that? Anybody's guess? Because they think you have a publicist? Name recognition? Word of mouth? It's kind of like you see it, and editors see you've already been vetted by an editor. They're going to go and look and find their own angle, their own story. They're using Instagram and other publications almost as a marketplace for their own ideas. They don't have to run the same angle or the same story. They'll just go and find, new. But what it does say is that, sometimes if you think about it, a lot of these people sharing stories, writing stories, they are in a cubicle. They're not necessarily out and about. If they are, sometimes they're seeing the same people. So they're looking at Instagram as a marketplace for new ideas. They're looking at already published things as though, like, oh, that's a new face. I'm going to go to her website. I'm going to take a look at her blog and see what else she's got going on. So this I know to be true, what I'm talking about tonight, because I have to practice this myself, both with Recipe for Press and with my art project, paper cut project, that is done in Athens, Georgia, at my kitchen table, not exactly the nexus of fashion, but does attract art houses and fashion luxury houses like those we mentioned, like Valentino, Christie's, Hermes, and Kate Spade. And I really love doing it. And lucky for you all, in your swag bags, Zoe Bios, who we mentioned, so let's just talk about this word, relationships, who I mentioned earlier, represents limited edition prints of our paper wigs in their art on tour. That's the idea, right? Okay, and they have put one in each of your bags for you as a takeaway. And these are limited edition. They're not signed, but if you would like for me to sign one afterwards, I'd be happy to. But this is what I do, and I have not spent one penny on marketing or a PR firm. I apply the formula that I share with you in Recipe for Press. Every time we have a collection, we take good pictures, and I ask myself, what does my potential client read? What are they reading right now? And that's where I'm going to pitch. And I'm probably going to pitch their online pages because I didn't think of this early enough or have the images early enough to pitch them. And so what that means is that I'm probably pitching an assistant editor or an intern. And now, every time I ask, when I get a call and it's the international creative director at Hermes or Valentino, I say, how did you hear about us? And what do they tell me? Anybody's guess?
My assistant.
My assistant saw it on a blog somewhere. So let's just keep that in mind because I have another something to that point. Spoiler alert, the new publicist is you, whether you like it or not, whether you really want to be doing this or not, whether you have time to do it or not. And how many of us really have time to be our own publicist? Not any. So before you spend 1 minute on this, I want you to really digest what I'm going to say because it will save you time and it will make that time much more efficient and productive and will produce results. What I do know also, and this is just living proof of it, and because I see this in the work that I do, I know it because of the work that I do, but it's worth mentioning again that these things, and Ivy knows it, communications, creativity, and commerce used to be distant cousins, and they were in all different rooms, and definitely business didn't want to deal with wild creative and all that stuff. And now they are in the same boardroom, and they are equally as important one to the next. It is the one thing that cannot be copied, creativity. Commerce can be very creative, but we are in a very collaborative space, and those relationships will help you in that space, as will great tools like Ivy. And so I'm going to thank you again for having me, bringing me here, and finding a way for me, and we have no affiliation, to come and share with you. And that's because it's a collaborative thing, and you get an opportunity, and you say yes, and that speaks to PR. Okay, so before we even put a minute towards our future PR goals, you must pinpoint what they are and why you are doing this. If you do not know why you want press, then just use the time to ask yourself why. What do you want it to do for you? Because if you were to tell me that, if you were to tell me, like, yeah, I really want to be in these pages, I really want to do this, and you can't tell me why or where you're going with that or what you want to happen, then I can't really help you. I mean, it's not, it wouldn't last, is what I'm saying. It would kind of fizzle out. But when you know your purpose, then you can begin to create clear direction, and it narrows and narrows your press plan so quickly that makes it a very attainable roadmap rather than just this kind of daunting project. So let's say, just for example, this happened to me at a talk once. Afterwards, a big talk like this, we broke into small group sections, and I asked somebody like why she was there. She'd spent money on the thing, she'd committed a whole day to it. Why do you want press? What do you want to do? She was like, I don't know, it's just like everybody else was doing it. And I felt like, I mean, it's a big subject, you know, and everybody's talking about it. And she was just nervous. But when I dug a little deeper, she did know why. She said, actually, I've kind of maxed out where I am in my little city, and I want more clients in my neighboring city. Okay, so that tells me then we're not going to pitch House Beautiful. If we're wanting business in Atlanta, Georgia, we're going to be angling towards Atlanta Homes and Lifestyles, or Atlanta Magazine Homes, or, you know, like a neighborhood where you think your client is, maybe their local neighborhood, you know, smaller magazine. That's where it's going to turn into business. So that's what I mean by defining a purpose. Say, if you wanted to position yourself more as an expert in color, or what else could we be experts in?
Sustainable design.
Sustainable design, small size, you know, big, maximizing space. Then you might then think about pitching a podcast, because there you could talk for an hour about your specialty and what you bring to it. Or you might start angling your social media to reflect that, so that when editors or writers go to that social media, you're telling them what to write, okay? And then, you know, if you have product, then you want to be in holiday gift guides and in Mother's Day gift guides in the front of book, product-driven pages. So then once we know what we want to happen, again, we can just start narrowing down, like, what are our top or two, you know, regional publications, regional and local bloggers. And if we stepped out beyond that and we get more comfortable, then what next tier, you know, magazine or online magazine would we pitch? Anybody who's ever heard me speak has known that if I could say one word and that was it, I would just walk up here and I would say photography, and then I would leave and charge a lot for that insight. And why is that, other than we all know we're in a very image-driven moment? Why else Would I say that coming from editorial? Anybody's guess?
Yeah.
World is visual, pictures are just have more impact. But also, if you think about it, when the economy crashed and publications started laying off, downsizing like everybody did, so no longer could I, request a messenger to send a pair of Spanx 2 blocks anymore. There just wasn't any budget, so there definitely wasn't any budget for that, but definitely no photo stylist assistant. And then we used to call in product, and now magazines and publications are kind of in a situation where they kind of expect you to have that under control. Even in my own tiny town, we have an artist co-op that has a big light box where people can shoot product properly against, white backdrop, silhouetted. But that's how important, if an editor is faced with 2 amazing ideas or people, and one comes to me and they're like press ready, and the other I'm going to have to photograph, guess which one I'm going for right now? Press ready, because they're just not the budget. It's not 100% of the time, I can't say that's for sure, but that's just honest, how things look now. And when you're talking about bloggers, they're definitely not sending a photo team because they don't have one. Okay, so just to make an example in a city that would really appreciate this one, this was a friend who agreed to let me share this, but she moved to New York and she said, she was in front of the Skype Pilates movement. And she wanted to be an expert, positioned as an expert in that. And her pedigree absolutely was. But when I saw that picture, I was like, no, I don't believe you, just based on that picture. If I feel like that, I couldn't convince you of that. And she was like, but that's like a professional photographer took that. And I was like, Denise, come on, I think that person was your friend because I can see that outlet. And, I bet that's your bedroom and you just emptied it out. And she was like, okay, that's exactly what happened. But he was professional. I was like, I know, but if you're going to pitch me, I need to be convinced right away that you are an expert in the field. I know that you do not go to teach Pilates with makeup on and really fancy Pilates clothes, but for that moment, we're talking, and for press and publication, we're talking aspirational. We know we don't all go and do installs, in high design and couture or whatever, but, on the website it needs to look like we're ready, for that moment and that we belong in that room. So she came back with this, and I was like, all right, better. She pitched 4 major publications, and all 4 ran not only her photography, but the angle in which she pitched her story. Because they had to fill the pages of online content really quickly, and then they chose to hold on to some for their print pages. So that's the power, is what I'm suggesting, of good photography. Okay, here's a designer on the left who I consulted, and she was like, am I press ready? And I was like, well, that's a nice picture of you on the left. But it took me sharing the same picture. How many of you have a press-ready picture of yourself? Okay, like about maybe half. On the right is an editorial press-ready picture. That's what I mean. Now, she doesn't show up every day looking like that, but it's got the color. It's taken by, where do we find somebody who could take a picture like this that understands what editorial photography and portraiture means and looks like? On the pages of the magazine you want to be a part of, all of those editors, and this is a big tip, they are the ear to those editors, first and foremost. All of the photographers are freelancers, is what I'm saying. Most of them, probably 3/4 of them are. You go to their website, they've got rates like everybody else, but all of these editors will ask them first, who are you seeing? What are you seeing? They're the ear to those editors, so fast track in. This is Laura Thurman, national designer, and this is an Ivy user. I'm sure of that.
Yeah.
She is someone who came to me and I think we were at High Point, and I in turn invited her to an event that I did, a very small event. I did not do that event without taking what? Pictures. I placed that story in a number of different publications. And then she came up to me afterwards and she was like, well, thank you so much for inviting me, because that was awesome, because she was just new, and I think it's good to bring new into, you know, the same people that show up at these things. So we need to bring others into this field like that. But she said, hey, would you come to Nashville and do one of those with me? Because I'd really like to, she told me exactly what she wanted to do, which was head more towards TV, personality, so that she wanted and needed to bring the focus towards her. So on the left is kind of like a good picture of her, but a little fuzzy. On the right is a little tighter picture. She said, I did. I said what when she asked me? I said yes. As she said yes to my invitation, and she showed up. And she maximized that moment, because not only did I do a little sharing with a very small group of interior designers, she photographed every minute of that. Not only that, she photographed her house beforehand, I think, and she got a couple of headshots in that one photo shoot. Okay, we're going to fast forward and come back to that, but what I'm suggesting is be strategic about when you spend that money on photography. Think how much can I squeeze out of this, and can I get behind the scenes pictures with my phone for, you know, social. Another tip on how to be an editor's BFF, which is what we're here to learn today. Go where the editors go. They used to not have to get out in front of people. It was very behind the scenes moment. And I mean, time, and that's where they would prefer to stay. But now it's a big club. They have their brands of their own publications, and they need to meet also interior designers. And so go where they are. Do not pitch them where they are. Say hi to where they are, but do not pitch them where they are, but meet them, support them, say your name, and then follow up when you have something that they need. They appreciate that more than you know. I know that when I had to do those kinds of events, that's where I found a lot of my stories. I bring editors onto a lot of my talks because they are looking for stories, and just hear me when I say, you all have stories that are publishable and that could get press ready. These people who create and produce content need so much. Help them out. You know, you have stories that they are interested in hearing. It's just that you have to find the right fit for your story. But, for example, at my book launch, at the end of my talk, I brought Designer Today Editor-in-Chief Jane Dabney up, and she told people exactly what she was looking for. In that next issue, there were no short of 6 stories of people that came to my book launch because they did the right thing. They heard it and they went and pitched. Design Bloggers Conference in LA this year to talk about relationships. Tons of editors at this thing. The woman on my left here in this picture was the first editor who ever assigned me a national assignment for a national magazine when I was 24 years old as a writer.
With the long blonde hair?
This one, if I could use the pointer, let me try to use it. I've never done that before. I've never done it successfully again. I mean,
Okay.
this one. That's Marjorie Gage. She's also a writer. And she's the editor on my book, and that's why it reads so well. She came. On the other side of me is one of my interns, who's now assistant editor, or assistant editor. She's the assistant editor at Atlanta Homes and Lifestyles. Nick May was there. He's with the podcast. He was looking for new designers to woo onto his podcast. Clint Smith, the now former editor-in-chief of Veranda, was there for 3 days. Really hard to get any time with him unless he has to be there for 3 days. So these are why you go and show up at these things. Okay? So by the time we get to the pitch and we know what we're pitching, and we've read the things and listened to the places that we want to pitch, the pitch is very simple. It is short. It is image-driven. This is a diagram of it. And the best way to get their attention is keep it tight so that I know within 3 sentences that you know why you're pitching, and you even kind of can tell me maybe the section you're pitching. Bullet points are great, especially for projects, because you can tell like a few special key things about a project, or maybe about an event without somebody having to read so much because they're just skimming, but they're not going to read anything before looking at the pictures that you put in the page. So I'm saying 2 or 3 images, not 200 images, but a couple of really good images that say, when I open it and I give it 3 seconds, I'm like, yep, I'm going to read that page. Okay, this is what you came for. It couldn't be any tighter, and I swear every person who produces content and magazines and TV shows all want to say the same things. We love that you read it before you pitch. Amazing pictures, timely angles. People who are quick to respond get press over and over and over, because when an editor is on deadline and they've got one little space in the magazine or one little segment on the show and they got to fill it before 5, who are they going to go to? Someone who's going to respond like before the day is up as quickly as possible. And if they can't respond that quickly, they're going to let them know, hey, I'm on an install. I hear you. I'll get back to you by 5. That's what I mean. And those editors, you want to know why the same people get pressed over and over? That's one big one. They're just quick because that editor is like 4 people behind them that they're, having to respond to. Being kind. Sometimes things just get cut at the last minute. It happens. I say don't even tell people you're going to get in print until you actually see it in the pages. But online is a little bit faster. But just be understanding when that does not happen for whatever reason. That editor has already suggested they really like what you do. And they will be your biggest ambassador and try to get you in the next issue. But the minute you become irritated with them, because remember, this is free. They don't have to write about you at all. That's what they're going to remember. But you be kind and reciprocal, and sometimes you share something that you just think is fabulous that isn't about you, and that's what will be shared among other editors about you. Because editors share a lot with each other. When I was an editor, I would share with my biggest competitor if it wasn't a good fit for my pages, but it was something good. And this is what they loathe, and it happens all the time, and I'm sure you would never do this, but, just spelling their name wrong. Or as Marjorie Gage, my editor, she said, "Dear Gage," and her name's Marjorie, Pitching with a phone call, don't do it. You're just going to have to be told, like, send me an email. And then they're going to remember you pitched with a phone call, and that means you're not ready for press. Because now, you can respond to their phone call really quickly, but don't pitch with a phone call. Pitching multiple editors the same idea at the same time, because what happens if both come back and say they want it? Yeah, you don't want to do that. Too many images in a pitch. You want to just share a few teasers, like get them curious. Let those images be so good that they know that you've got good images behind that, and let them know you do, but don't put them all in one email and then clog up their email with high-res images. Blasting unpolished pictures all over social media. Say you've just got something, this has to be your decision. You do whatever you want. But I'm just saying, if you want that project published, you do not want to put the key rooms, all of the room, on your social media. What you can do is do a few teasers, because the editors are reading and watching. You could do a little vignette. You could do small things that suggest a big story you're working on. But if you want it published, don't shower your social with those images. And then excessive follow-ups or overzealous contact, like one editor said, if I give you my phone number, it's sacred. It's like for problem solving, not for calling because you've got a question or something like that. But you do want to follow up once, always. If you don't follow up once, I'd say don't even bother with any of the rest. Because so many times things come through, any editor would tell you it comes through, and they're like, yeah, fabulous. They put it in a folder or something, and then, or it just drops off the email page. You follow up, and that means that you're serious about your own work. And they're in the business of giving somebody press, and they know at that point, like, oh yes, I did like this. And I know if I don't move, they might take it elsewhere. So there's that. And then just attitude, we know what that looks like, but I can't tell you, I won't even tell you. I'm just saying, like, we're all in this together. These events, you know, shape up as they do, magazines shape up as they do, and everybody's trying their best to do beautiful things. So it'll make it difficult, even if we want to sometimes. Okay, positive relationships, and we're nearing an end here. They go so far, and it happens so quickly. So in my book, this is a page, there's another page that goes with this. This is a fake masthead, and this is who puts together the pages of the magazine. Or you would have a blog, it might be a little tighter, but these are the people that put together the pages of the magazine. So I tell you what those jobs mean so you'll know who to pitch. But the point really is that very soon those assistant editors or those interns that passed your name along to the creative directors, they will be the creative director. Or they will be the senior editor. And it will happen so quickly. And these relationships will get to the point where you are then dedicating a whole chapter in your book to your first intern, which is the case with Catherine Dash. And she is now, works for about 15 major magazines as a freelancer after leaving Lonnie as their market editor. She is was Kate Spade's Instagram liaison. She's got a flower company. She is so intertwined in editorial, and she feels like yesterday, you know, she was with me. And then, to this point, know that you will be pitching your former intern and sharing great names, which is what happens in this industry. And I'm wrapping this up by saying, that's Laura Thurman, our Ivy user, who put my formula to work, who is so great at reciprocating and just being gracious about, like, giving back when somebody has helped her out. That's Catherine Dash and Laura Thurman in HGTV magazine. But not only that, and I think that's the November issue coming out, and that's Catherine at her house. Not only that, that if you think back to the slide that I showed you, where the slides where she was taking, she had one event and she got images of her house, she got images of her, she got images of the gathering. She placed that gathering story in Ivy's magazine. She realized that very quickly that a lot of the images had Universal furniture in them, so she pitched Universal furniture. They came and filmed her house and did a whole film on that. They then placed the story in Business at Home, a 4-page spread. HGTV then, it was a good fit. This didn't happen by magic. She honed in on what was good fits, did a feature on her magazine, on her home, and it goes on and on and on. And so when you put this formula together, when you create and craft a plan, and you'll have to do that about every 6-8 months, you'll kind of want to keep focusing it, you too can get published and be an editor's BFF. And okay, this is my next to last slide. This is Zoe Bio's creative showroom in High Point, where my things, again back to relationships, where my images hang, where my mother comes to the book launch and meets, all of my people, and where press comes to find news stories to share, just like they're supposed to. So those relationships, really will take you a lot farther than any, one nugget you're going to read in my book. So thank you again for sponsoring the books. Thank you, Ivy, for getting me here and creating something. And Tabaraka Studios, thank you so much for having me. And this is final slide, is that in the same way that you create this tool, this project management tool for interior designers, Recipe for Press, with the first and second book, we have, people come and say, I love it, how do I find the correct editors to pitch? So my team creates a fresh media list every year, and we update it line by line. It takes about 6 weeks, twice a year. So that's on recipeforpress.com.
Amy's media kit, sorry, I'm chiming in, is
Yeah.
amazing. Like, I had people tell me about this media list, sorry, not media kit, before I even knew who Amy Flurry was, and they're like, Risa, you don't know who Amy Flurry is?
Because it's relevant to you, because it takes time. So anytime somebody had a problem and said like, oh, it's taking me forever to
And
find
it's
these
only
people,
$75.
put my team on it. But these things you have to keep updated, and that takes a lot of time that you don't have. So we have a few tools there that make your efforts stretch a lot farther. So that's it. Thank you so much.
To just continue the change, she does have a really big panel that she's speaking on at High Point. So when you kept saying like it goes on and on and on, it's been pretty amazing. To
Because
watch her
press
cycle.
doesn't look like just flat, press is so complex now, or so, when it's so complex, it's robust.
Yeah.
You are on panels at market, you are participating, like I said, on podcasts, manufacturers have newsletters, manufacturers put out magazines. Look at Schumacher's magazine. That staff is all formerly editors of big magazines. And they put out a magazine, and they even take ads, and they write about people that are not even, have anything to do with Schumacher. So it's very robust, a very exciting time for you all. So I wish you all the best. Keep Recipe for Press in on all your successes. Thank you.
Before we wrap up, obviously we want you to mix and mingle and definitely introduce yourself to somebody that you don't know, because that's really the essence of Ivy, is really building a sense of community for you. But does anybody have any questions for Amy? Yes, Carly.
Hi, I'm Carly Waters. The slide where you talked about not pitching multiple editors at once. What is your rule of thumb? Do you pitch a story and give it a week? How long do you wait till they respond? Maybe they won't.
That's fair. That's fair, because it's different from how long you wait. When you pitch a project. Pitching a project, I will just say, can take a year. I mean, pitching projects is a slow game, and you have to wait because you give, like, you pitch a project, you follow up on a project maybe 2-3 weeks later. I'd say 3 weeks, give it 3 weeks, and you follow up once. And if you don't hear anything, but you really felt like it was a good fit on that one, I would say before pitching it elsewhere, you would want to go back and just say, I'd say almost after 2 months. Projects are just long leads. But, and then you say, I just wanted to give you right of first refusal, but it's cool if you're not ready, and sometimes that'll be just the thing for them to say, oh, I meant it, I was interested. But something like a product, it's like follow up in 7 business days. Don't wait too long on that. And products, of course you can pitch to multiple places, but the same angle, the same story, the same pictures, you don't want to float it around to see who's the first to. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
So project pitches are they can be a longer, just be in for the long haul on those. If you are not in that mood, then break it up. Go ahead and break it up into many different stories and try to go online first, because that's faster. Some people just don't feel like waiting, and they want to put it on their Instagram. Their Instagram pages are stronger anyway, so it's really up to you. But I just know designers who have waited year and a half to end up in the big magazines, and that's not unusual. And the regional magazines are quicker to take it. They may be more meaningful for you anyway to place your articles there, because you're looking for clients there, and they're so much more happy that you brought them there. They have to move faster because they don't want to let it go.
That was one of my questions, but I will hold my questions because it's all about you guys. Go ahead. Right here? Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, so what if we have multiple email addresses, like say if we have your media list, and you're not sure exactly who to pitch it to, is it okay to copy more than one person, or just always one person?
I say always one person. What you want to do, again, is to understand, and you will find a whole chapter dedicated to this in the book, you need to understand who's putting together those pages. Just understand that like one editor might be putting together the first 3 pages of the magazine, another couple editors focus on the middle, and usually their names are produced by, written by, and if you looked back at that masthead, you would find them there. So then you would have made that connection, and that's how I walk my interns through this, because they'll come back, I'll say, let's create a tight plan for this one idea. They came back with 10 like so-so, half researched, you know, like this might be good. And I was like, okay, I don't expect you to know this, but I'm going to walk you through it. And if we walk through all 10, we might find one that's a really good fit. And then we would go and look for the editor, you know, look for the name on the page, look back at the masthead. So I don't subscribe to, you know, emailing all of them at the same time. And I would say before you even pitch, follow that person on Instagram. On our media list, we even check it by Instagram first. So I'd say follow them there first before you pitch, because then they're going to see it there. And one tip is that editors don't worry about huge followings. So, you know, they'll see your name first there, and then they'll see it second time in the pitch, and you'll find a lot of information on their bios. They'll say what their current position is. They'll give you, so it's like detective work. That's why I say by the time you get to pitching, you're pretty much there. You know it because you know them.
And I think also, Amy, a lot of designers that I've been talking to recently are very impatient. No name mentioning, and I think that, you know, it is you do have to have patience, and you do have to maybe start out small, like you said, regional, something that's maybe more meaningful.
Yeah, and get the hang of it too. It's like anything. You don't start out and get a whole house project. You start, you know, you might start out with a room, and the quickest way to break into these magazines, or start out the front of the magazine, the smaller, you know, quarter page, because then you'll get the hang of it. Those are the pages that are read the most widely anyway. Thank you. Those pages are the ones that are read the most widely, but then, you know, you get the hang of working with an editor, and they get the hang of you. And so I agree with you wholeheartedly.
And about the Instagram and like doing your research, I actually have a lot of designers that have told me that it works. So what Amy's saying is super actionable, and you can do it yourself. And I definitely think that I've seen a lot of results of just doing your homework.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, in the back? Yeah, go ahead. Just shout out your question.
Absolutely, Amy, thank you for your time today. Very appreciative of that. I am not an interior designer, I'm a fashion designer.
Yep.
And I've been watching you. I met you about 3 or 4 years ago at Magic Las Vegas. So
Yep.
I've been following you there, so congratulations on all the success. My question is, can you pull these photos and simple shots and the pictures off with a mobile device or a really high quality camera, or do you need like that Canon high-res DSLR for like the introduction?
Okay, well, I would say invest in the photography, because when any person who puts these pages together, no matter what it is, online, or they're going to see right away if they can use it. And they're going to go with what they can use for that reason, budgets and all, but also it means that you're ready. You've invested in yourself. And there's a lot of areas where you could waste a lot of money, but I would say that's not one of them. Because you could use the outtakes for social, and it would elevate your social. You could use the others for your website, and it would elevate your website. So I know that's probably not what you want to hear, but that's where I wouldn't skip on that.
And Amy, to chime in on that, we actually just did a photographer panel with 3 of the Bay Area's top interior architecture photographers, and I can actually send you a recording of that too. Really important information, and I definitely think that it's an investment, but making that investment is worth it because you can use that to build your brand.
And I just try to when I do a photo shoot of any kind, I do what I can. Sometimes I can't bring in, the photographer I wanted to, but I make sure I'm bringing a photographer. But I maximize. I don't leave any of those pictures sitting in a folder. So that's one good approach. I'm sure, you know, I'm sure there are times like for certain things, Instagram or something, you know, you can use those good quality shots. Sometimes an editor will ask for a shot and they just need something fast, but they may call it in later, the actual product. They could call it in, and if they're asking for something quickly and you don't have it, go ahead and do the best you can, because, you know, they might call the product in and shoot it on their own. You just never know, but I still stand by my photography.
All right, we'll take one last question and then we'll wrap up. And also, when we wrap up, just wanted you guys to know, before I forget to mention this, that there is a signed copy of the book, just to save Amy from not signing 1 million copies tonight. It's actually a signed copy of the book in your tote bag. And there's also a Tabarca tile and a lot of cool Tabarca stuff. So just be careful, don't drop it. Make sure you take it as well. And go ahead with your question.
I'm selling a product to a store, and I'm not blasting it, but I'm putting it on social, and just to see like the reaction.
Yeah, just to kind of get feedback.
And I'm only selling to one store, but let's say I want to pitch that product to an editor, and it's already been on Instagram. How?
Okay, well, one way, if you've already put it out there, and I was just suggesting with projects. But when you're talking about products and you've already put it out there, here, book 1 is a good one for you, because you understand that new editors are always looking for new, but sometimes it's like just new enough, you know. So it may not be new, but it may be the new color of the year. You might tie it into a new theme that's popular at the moment, so you can reintroduce it as that. So. And does that make sense to you? And one more thing I do want to say, back to your point, is that with all of my clients who, you know, I try to really, and I work almost as a partner for years with some companies, but none of them have just all the means in the world for all these photo shoots too. So if I do a photo shoot, I try to make in my mind like a campaign for the newsletter. And, you know, first of all, let's talk about those newsletters. So important. That's your own magazine, your own press. You can speak directly to your audience. So I make that campaign start with the newsletter. It cycles down. I have corresponding, you know, Instagram posts and Facebook. We use the backtape or something for stories. So really, again, just thinking in terms of campaigns so you can just squeeze out the best of the money and effort you put into those photos.
And I mean, we know a lot of people that can help with branding and creating those newsletters and all those things that you don't have time for. That's the magic of Ivy, is that instead of going to the World Wide Web and Googling and trying to experiment with people that don't understand your brand, we have people that can do that. So definitely to get my business cards, I can connect you personally. Before I was at Ivy, had my own little branding thing. So I think branding and newsletters and all of those things are very important. Yeah. And I think that that's really what will propel your business forward. And before you go to pitch your project, you really want to make sure that, right, your website and your social media and all of that you're putting out there kind of resonates and ties back to your brand, right? Yeah. Awesome. Well, we are going to wrap up. We will be here to ask questions. You can find me or my coworker Laura or Courtney if you have questions about Ivy, the Tabarca team. Thank you so much for having us. Haley and Georgia and